The classroom buzzed with excitement. Alien students of every shape and color moved quietly to their seats, whispering to each other. Today was special. Today, the new student from Earth was going to introduce their class pet. Every student was curious. They had seen the pictures humans sent in their application and most expected something cute, soft, and small, a tiny creature that would sit quietly on a desk. The door slid open with a soft hiss and all talking stopped. A human walked in, tall and calm, holding something that immediately made every alien freeze. It was not small. It was not cute. In fact, it was huge. Its muscles moved under its thick, scaled skin, and its eyes glowed faintly, scanning the room as if it were already the ruler of the place. Its tail swayed slowly behind it, each movement making a soft thump on the floor. A few students gasped. One of the smaller, round-shaped aliens let out a squeak and jumped onto its chair. "Is that alive?" it whispered, its voice trembling. Others muttered the same, their antennae twitching nervously. The human stepped forward, holding the creature's massive leash with ease. "Everyone, this is Shadow," the human said quietly. Their voice was calm, even gentle, but the words seemed to echo in the silent classroom. The predator blinked slowly at the students, then lowered its massive head slightly, like it was studying them. A teacher, tall and blue-skinned with 4 eyes, raised a hand. "Human," it said, trying to keep its voice steady. "Are you sure this is safe? Our classroom rules." "I know the rules," the human interrupted softly, almost with a smile. "Shadow won't hurt anyone unless it is ordered to." The teacher blinked. It could easily break our safety barriers." The human nodded. "I know, but it won't. I promise." A hush fell over the room. Some aliens whispered to each other, their voices full of fear and excitement. The human knelt slowly on the floor, speaking a few quiet words to the predator. Shadow's ears twitched and its massive head lowered. It leaned slightly against the human's side, its eyes still scanning but now with a calm focus. One brave alien finally raised its voice. "Human, why did you bring such a dangerous creature?" The human looked up, calm as ever. "Because," they said simply, "it's not dangerous to those it trusts. It only shows its power when needed." Some students tilted their heads, confused. "But it looks terrifying," said another alien, whose skin shimmered like silver. "Even standing still, it feels like it could destroy the room in a second." The human smiled softly. "That's because it can, but it won't. Not here, not now. Shadow only follows my guidance." Slowly, the students began to notice something strange. Even though the predator was huge, even though its teeth looked sharp and its claws could tear through walls, it wasn't aggressive. It didn't growl or snarl. Instead, it moved with quiet, controlled strength. Its massive body seemed alive but careful, like a river that could flood but chooses to flow gently. A group of aliens huddled together, whispering. "How can one human control such a creature?" one asked. "We tried to train our pets for years and they never obeyed fully." Another shook its head. "It's impossible. Only a human could have a bond like that." The human stood, still holding Shadow's leash easily. "It's about trust," the human said simply. "You don't need fear. You need respect. Shadow and I understand each other. That's all." The classroom stayed quiet, the aliens staring. The predator slowly walked around the room, sniffing lightly at the edges, making sure no one was a threat. Every student stayed in their seat, frozen, but no one moved away. The human didn't rush it. They simply walked alongside, speaking softly from time to time. Shadow would pause, listen, and then continue. By the time the human stopped in front of their desk, a few aliens were starting to relax, though most still had wide eyes. They couldn't understand it. How could a human, so small compared to the predator, command such power with just a few words? How could a creature so strong stay calm in a room full of nervous aliens? The human sat down, and Shadow curled gently beside the chair, its head resting on its paws. Its eyes, glowing faintly, still watched the room, but now there was no threat. Just a quiet strength, a presence that demanded respect without force. The teacher finally exhaled. "Very well," they said slowly. "But remember, human, any sudden move and—" The human interrupted with a gentle smile. "There won't be any sudden moves. Shadow is part of my family and we don't harm friends." The room was silent for a moment. Then one small alien, shaking slightly, whispered, I think this human and that thing are amazing." The human just smiled again, leaning back in the chair, calm and confident. Shadow's tail thumped softly on the floor. For the first time in the classroom's history, the students weren't just curious. They were in awe. They had expected a tiny, cute pet. Instead, they were face to face with an apex predator controlled by a human who seemed fearless. And everyone knew without a doubt that humans were not ordinary. The classroom stayed quiet for a few moments, but the silence could not last. Shadow, the massive predator, slowly lifted its head and sniffed the air. Its glowing eyes swept across the students, and even the bravest alien could feel a chill. The smallest noises, whispers, the rustle of wings, a desk sliding, made Shadow's ears twitch. One of the students, a tall alien with 4 arms, accidentally dropped a pen. It rolled across the floor with a soft click. Shadow's head shot toward it instantly. Its muscles tensed and the room felt as if it held its breath. The alien froze, staring at the predator. Shadow growled low, deep in its throat, a sound that vibrated the floor. It was not loud, but it carried power. The human knelt immediately beside Shadow. "It's okay," they said softly. Shadow's growl stopped almost instantly, and the massive creature sat back on its haunches. Its tail thumped the ground once, twice, and it looked at the human with calm obedience. The alien students whispered frantically. "It's huge," one cried. "It could crush us in a second." Another shouted, "Why is the human not afraid?" The human stood slowly, keeping a calm presence. "Shadow only reacts when it senses danger," they said. "It trusts me. You don't need to fear it." A smaller alien with bright yellow skin raised its hand shakily. "But it could attack. Look at its claws and teeth. Even if it trusts you, what if it gets scared?" The human smiled. "It's not scared. It's aware. That's very different. Shadow understands the difference between fear and threat. It won't hurt anyone who is calm." Some students tried to take a step back, but others were frozen, unable to move. Their minds raced. They had studied predators, taught about dangerous animals, but nothing in their lessons had prepared them for this. Shadow was so large, so strong, and so perfectly controlled that the normal rules didn't seem to apply. One of the braver students, a blue-skinned alien with eyes on stalks, stepped forward. "Human," they said, voice trembling. "If it attacks, what will you do? Can you stop it?" The human crouched slightly, speaking softly to Shadow. The predator's eyes softened, and it leaned slightly toward the human's hand. "It won't attack without my order," the human said. "I've trained it. It listens to me." Even so, panic began to ripple through the classroom. Some students moved to the corners, others climbed onto their desks. One tiny alien almost fell off its chair, shaking so badly it could barely speak. It's alive, it's so huge." The human noticed the fear and spoke again, calm but firm. "You don't need to panic. Shadow will not hurt you. The only thing it reacts to is danger. Stay calm and everything is fine." A loud thump suddenly shook the floor. Shadow's tail had accidentally hit a desk as it shifted position. Every alien jumped and a few screamed. Shadow turned its head toward the noise, growling softly, teeth flashing. The human stepped closer, placing a hand gently on the predator's massive snout. "Easy, buddy," the human whispered. The growl faded and Shadow relaxed again, lowering its head. The aliens stared, mouths open. They had never seen a bond like this. The predator, capable of tearing apart metal or bone, obeyed a human's whisper. One alien finally spoke, voice trembling with awe. I think it knows the human better than it knows itself." Shadow shifted slightly, sitting back, watching the room carefully. Its glowing eyes scanned every student, and though it seemed terrifying, no one felt attacked. The human had complete control, and yet, even controlled, Shadow's presence was overwhelming. The teacher tried to speak again. "Human, this is highly irregular. Even trained predators of this size are not allowed in classrooms. There could be accidents." The human shook their head. "No accidents. Shadow knows the rules. I am responsible. Just watch." A small alien whispered to another, "I've seen predators before. They are wild, untamable, dangerous. But this one listens to a human like it is nothing. How can that be?" The human crouched once more and patted Shadow's massive head. "It's about respect," they said quietly. "I don't control it with fear. I control it with trust. It knows I won't hurt it and I know it won't hurt me." The classroom slowly started to calm. Some students peeked from behind their chairs, still trembling, still unsure. Others simply stared in awe. Shadow was not just a creature, they realized. It was a living example of human ability, human courage, and human connection to even the most dangerous beings. By the end of the session, though a few aliens were still nervous, the panic had shifted into curiosity. They could feel it in the air. Humans were not ordinary. A creature that could have destroyed the room remained calm, obedient, and almost protective of its human. The students didn't fully understand it yet, but they knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. The human stood, straight and calm. Shadow sat beside them, massive and alert, ready but relaxed. The classroom, once filled with fear, now held a quiet respect. Every student knew that this human and this predator were unlike anything they had studied, anything they had imagined. The panic was only the beginning. The lesson in human capability had just started. The next lesson was a practical exercise, and the classroom was filled with tension. The aliens were still talking quietly about Shadow, the predator. Some had moved closer, curious. Others stayed near the walls, afraid to get too close. No one wanted to provoke the creature, yet everyone wanted to see it in action. The teacher cleared their throat. "Today we will test defensive response and agility," they said. "Students, you will face simulated threats in a controlled environment. Human," the teacher added, looking at the new student, "your pet will be part of the demonstration." The human simply nodded. Shadow shifted slightly, lowering its massive head but remaining calm. Its tail thumped softly, a slow rhythm that seemed to match the human's calm breathing. Every student could feel the tension in the room. Shadow was huge, powerful, and completely alert. The first test was simple. The teacher released a small drone that zipped around the room. It moved fast, trying to simulate a dangerous intruder. Every alien knew the predator could easily destroy it, but they wanted to see how it would react. The drone spun near a desk and Shadow's head snapped toward it. In one fluid motion, it leapt forward, faster than anyone could believe. Its claws tapped the floor softly, and before the drone could complete a loop, Shadow had pinned it gently with a swipe of its massive paw. The drone didn't break. It simply stopped moving as if captured by invisible hands. The classroom erupted in whispers. "Did you see that speed?" one alien gasped. "It's impossible." The human smiled calmly. "Shadow knows the rules," they said quietly. "It doesn't destroy anything unless I tell it to." The next test was more challenging. The teacher sent in multiple drones, moving unpredictably. Some students tried to guide their own small pets to intercept them, but none succeeded. Shadow, however, moved like water. Its massive body twisted and turned, every step precise, every motion controlled. It blocked drones, pushed them gently aside, and corralled them into one corner of the room. The aliens stared in disbelief. Shadow was huge, terrifying, yet elegant. It did not thrash or strike recklessly. Each movement was careful, deliberate, and perfectly effective. It was as if the predator was reading the drone's minds before they even moved. One alien whispered, "It's like it knows what's coming before it happens." "How can that be?" Another added, "No pet, no creature on any planet could do this. Only a human could control it like that." The teacher, struggling to keep composure, nodded slowly. "Human, clearly you have exceptional control. Most predators this size would destroy the room, yet Shadow obeys you perfectly." The human crouched and patted Shadow's massive head. "It's about trust," they said simply. "I don't force it. I guide it. That makes all the difference." For the next part of the test, the teacher released a holographic predator, a creature designed to be aggressive and unpredictable. The aliens held their breath. Could Shadow handle something meant to provoke it? The hologram lunged at a student, its teeth bared. Shadow reacted instantly, moving in front of the human, positioning itself like a shield. The hologram struck, and Shadow didn't attack aggressively, it intercepted, neutralizing the threat with precise swipes that never harmed anyone. Each move was controlled, efficient, and perfectly timed. The classroom was silent. Every student's jaw dropped. Shadow's strength was overwhelming, yet its restraint was even more astonishing. It could have destroyed the hologram completely, could have crushed the student if it wanted, but it didn't. It only did what was needed, no more, no less. Finally, the teacher sent in a small obstacle course with moving platforms and traps. The aliens' own pets failed instantly, slipping and panicking. Shadow, guided by the human, navigated the course flawlessly. Every jump, every step, every turn was perfect. The predator moved with incredible power but also with intelligence that seemed beyond belief. By the end of the demonstration, the classroom was filled with awe. Whispers ran through the room like a soft wind. "Humans are not normal," one alien murmured. "They can control creatures no one else can." The human stood, calm as ever. Shadow sat beside them, massive body relaxed, tail coiled neatly. Its eyes scanned the room, still glowing faintly, but there was no threat now. It had shown its power, but only under guidance. It had demonstrated strength, precision, and loyalty, all at once. The aliens slowly approached, some still hesitant, others eager. They wanted to touch the predator to understand the human's control, but no one dared until the human gave permission. Shadow simply watched, quiet and attentive. Its presence was powerful, yet it inspired respect, not fear. The teacher finally spoke, voice quiet. This is remarkable. You have shown more control and power than I ever expected. Shadow is not just a pet. It is a partner. And you are extraordinary. The humans smiled softly. It's simple, they said. Respect and trust. That's all it takes. The aliens looked at Shadow again and then at the human. They understood now that humans were not like other species. They were brave, clever, and able to form bonds that no alien could. They could guide the strongest predator with nothing more than calm words and confidence. By the end of the session, one thing was clear to every student in the room. They had never seen anything like it and they would never forget it. Humans were special. Shadow had only shown a part of its power, but even that part was enough to prove that the human was someone extraordinary. The class had expected a pet. What they got was a living demonstration of human skill, trust, and unmatched control. By the next morning, the story of Shadow and the human had spread throughout the academy. Aliens in every classroom were talking quietly, their voices full of awe and disbelief. Even the teachers whispered about the human who had controlled a massive predator with nothing but calm words and trust. The human walked into the classroom as usual, Shadow trailing beside them. The predator's presence filled the room, but this time there was no panic. The students had seen Shadow's power in action. They understood now that fear was not the right reaction. Respect, on the other hand, was necessary. The aliens watched silently as the human reached their desk. Shadow sat down beside them, massive body relaxed but eyes alert. Its tail moved slowly, not thumping like before but swaying gently. It was clear to everyone, Shadow was not just a dangerous creature. It was loyal, intelligent, and disciplined. One student, a tall purple-skinned alien with long fingers, finally spoke up. Human, I think I understand now. Shadow is not wild. It listens because it wants to, not because it has to. The human nodded. Exactly. You cannot force a predator to obey. You earn its respect. And once you have it, you can achieve things no one else can. A smaller alien whose eyes sparkled like stars stepped closer. I never thought I would see something like this. Most of us train our pets for months, even years. But Shadow, it listens perfectly. How is that possible? The human smiled. Patience, understanding, and trust. Shadow knows I won't harm it. That makes it willing to follow me. The class was quiet, watching Shadow carefully. Every movement the predator made seemed deliberate. When it shifted, it was gentle. When it rose to stretch, it was careful not to disturb anyone. It was clear that this was not just raw power, it was controlled power. Even the teacher, who had been skeptical at first, approached cautiously. Human, your control is remarkable. Most creatures of this size cannot be guided with such precision. You have earned Shadow's respect and in turn the respect of this entire classroom. The human looked at the teacher calmly. It's not about control. It's about partnership. Shadow and I work together. It trusts me and I trust it. That is why it is so obedient. Slowly the aliens began to approach. Some brought their small pets to show them off, comparing them quietly. Others just wanted to see Shadow up close, to understand how one human could bond with such a dangerous creature. No one was afraid anymore. Fear had been replaced with admiration. One alien whispered to another, "We thought humans were weak. Look at this. A human can guide a predator stronger than anything we have. They are extraordinary." Shadow remained calm, watching the students with a steady gaze. It did not move aggressively. It did not growl. Its size and strength were obvious, yet its restraint impressed everyone even more than its power. During a break, the human stood and spoke quietly to the class. You will never learn to control power by force alone. Respect is stronger than fear. If you earn it, you can achieve things you never imagined. The students listened carefully. They began to understand not just the human skill, but the lesson behind it. Humans were different. They were brave, patient, and capable of forming bonds that no other species could match. Shadow's obedience was proof. A group of aliens finally dared to step close. They reached out slowly, touching Shadow's scales lightly. The predator did not move. It did not snap. It simply accepted their touch, still calm, still loyal to the human. The students gasped quietly. This was more than a display of power, it was a lesson in trust, respect, and understanding. Even the quietest students were impressed. They had expected a small, cute pet, but they got something far greater. A living example of what humans could do. Shadow's strength was obvious, but the human's intelligence, patience and courage were even more remarkable. By the end of the day, every student had a new view of humans. They were no longer just another species. They were strong, clever, and capable of things that even the most advanced aliens could not comprehend. Shadow had earned their attention, but the human had earned their respect. The teacher finally spoke, voice soft but filled with admiration. "Human, you have taught us more than any lesson book. You have shown courage, intelligence, and the value of trust. I believe the Academy has much to learn from you." The human nodded politely, patting Shadow on the head. The predator leaned slightly into the touch, its massive body relaxed and calm. The bond between them was clear to everyone. They worked together perfectly, each understanding the other. As the students left for the day, they whispered excitedly. They could not stop talking about what they had seen. Shadow had not just shown power, it had shown loyalty. And the human had shown that even the strongest and most dangerous creatures could be guided with patience, respect, and trust. By the end of the week, the story of the human and Shadow had spread across the entire academy. Aliens from other classes came just to see them. Teachers observed with quiet admiration. Even the most skeptical students had to admit that humans were extraordinary. The classroom had expected a small, cute pet. Instead, they had received a living demonstration of power, loyalty, and the extraordinary ability of humans to earn respect. Shadow's strength impressed them, but the human's skill, calmness, and courage inspired them. No one would ever forget it. Humans were something else entirely. By the end of the week, the entire academy had heard the story of the human and Shadow. Students whispered in the halls, sharing what they had seen. Teachers quietly nodded in approval. Even those who had doubted the human's ability now looked at them with awe. Humans, it seemed, were unlike any species they had ever encountered. The classroom was unusually quiet that morning. Every student had a look of curiosity and admiration on their faces. Shadow sat beside the human as always, massive body calm, eyes glowing faintly. It was clear to everyone that the predator was not just powerful, it was intelligent, loyal, and completely controlled by the human. The human entered slowly, carrying a small bag. The aliens watched closely, expecting the usual calm display. But today the human had something different in mind. Instead of merely showing Shadow's obedience, they wanted the class to understand the full extent of what humans could do. The teacher, cautious but curious, nodded. "Human, if you are going to demonstrate anything more, remember safety first," they said. The human smiled. "Of course, safety first. But I think it is time for everyone to understand something important." The human set down the bag and opened it carefully. From inside they took a small glowing device. The device emitted a soft hum and projected a holographic obstacle course across the room. Moving platforms, spinning barriers, and simulated predators appeared. The students gasped. This was far more complex than anything they had practiced before. Shadow rose to its full height and studied the course. Its muscles tensed slightly, but there was no fear. The human knelt beside the predator, speaking softly. "We can do this," they said. Shadow's tail swished once, then twice, and it began to move, guided perfectly by the human's calm commands. The predator leapt across moving platforms with incredible precision. It dodged spinning barriers, avoided simulated attacks, and intercepted holographic predators with skill and control that amazed everyone. Every movement was flawless, every step precise. The classroom could hardly believe their eyes. One alien whispered to another, "It's impossible, a creature this big, so powerful, and yet, it moves like it's weightless." The human's voice was calm, guiding Shadow with soft words. "Left, now, jump, steady, good." Every instruction was followed instantly. Shadow responded with a speed and intelligence no alien could match. The final part of the obstacle course involved a small simulated threat, a robotic creature that lunged unpredictably. Most pets in the academy would panic or attack recklessly. Shadow, however, waited for the human's signal. At the exact moment, it moved, intercepting the robot without harm, neutralizing the threat perfectly. The classroom erupted into whispers of amazement. Even the teacher could not hide their astonishment. "I have never seen anything like this in my entire career," the teacher said. "Human, your bond with Shadow, it is beyond understanding." The human nodded gently. "It is simple. Respect and trust. Fear is not control. Strength without guidance is dangerous. But when you work together, you can achieve incredible things." Some students stepped closer, still wary but filled with admiration. They reached out to touch Shadow lightly, testing its response. The predator remained calm, tilting its massive head slightly, acknowledging their touch but never leaving the human's side. The students gasped quietly. They had never seen loyalty and strength combined in such a perfect way. One alien, who had been skeptical all week, finally spoke. Humans are not ordinary. They are clever, brave, and somehow able to do what no other species can. They can control strength without needing to destroy. They understand creatures in a way we cannot. The human smiled softly. That is right. Humans are not stronger just because of muscle or size. We are strong because of our mind, our patience, and our ability to connect with others, even the fiercest predators. The students nodded slowly. They understood now. Humans were different. Not just powerful but clever, fearless, and able to inspire loyalty. Shadow was proof of what humans could accomplish, but the human themselves was even more remarkable. By the end of the session, the students had stopped whispering. They were silent, watching the human and Shadow. There was respect in every eye, awe in every expression. Humans were no longer just another species to them. They were extraordinary beings capable of things aliens had never imagined. The teacher stepped forward, voice full of admiration. Human, you have changed how we see your species. You have shown courage, intelligence, and the ability to command loyalty from even the strongest predators. You are an example to us all. The human nodded politely, patting Shadow's head. Shadow leaned slightly into the touch, its massive body relaxed, alert but calm. The bond between them was clear, strength and trust combined perfectly. As the students left the classroom, they whispered excitedly, replaying every moment in their minds. They had expected a small, cute pet. What they had witnessed was something far greater. A human showing skill, intelligence, courage, and the ability to inspire loyalty and respect from a creature far stronger than any of them. By the end of the week, the academy had a new understanding. Humans were something else entirely. They were brave, clever, and capable of achievements that other species could only dream of. Shadow had demonstrated the predator's power, but the human had demonstrated something far more important: the extraordinary potential of humans themselves. From that day on, humans were no longer underestimated. They were admired, respected, and even feared in a good way. The story of the human and Shadow would be told for years. A lesson that strength alone is nothing without trust, intelligence, and courage. Humans were not ordinary. They were something else entirely.